a while back I was just listening to Spotify. I was listening to a rock playlist on Spotify, and the song came on. It was like super catchy, and just had a great sound, and the lyrics were like really cool. And so usually when I'm listening to Spotify or whatever and that happens, I look at who the artist is, and I'll just flip to the artist, and I'll just do a shuffle of that artist to see if the other content is like that. And so the artist name was Slothrust, one word. Um, and I was just listening to all their music on shuffle, and I was like, man, this is really consistently good rock music. It's like songwriting is great, lyrically it's really interesting. You know, um, like the sound is really good. I'm kind of like a sound snob, and so like if something isn't recorded and mixed well, I can get irritated. And I was like, man, the sound is really good. It was just a really good Sunny band. So I, shared it with a friend of mine who's also into that kind of thing, and he's actually more picky about music than I am. And so usually I'll send him something every couple of weeks, and he usually is nice to me and says, "Yeah, that's great," and then I never hear, I never hear about it again, which means that he was being kind and didn't tell me he didn't like it. But this time, he said, "Oh man, I really like this." And then he had mentioned a couple more times, like, "Yeah, I was listening to it in the car," or "I told my wife about it," stuff like that. So I was like, "Wow, you must actually like this band that I found on Spotify." So I was, excited about that. And so a while back, I get this text from him, kind of like a couple weeks ago, and he's like, "Hey, Slothrust is going to be in town. I live in Austin, and they're going to be at the Barracuda. Do you want to go?" And I was like, "Yes, definitely." And so he went ahead and purchased the tickets, and that was it. I hadn't really thought about it since then until about I'd say like a half a week before the show. I was just sort of browsing social media, and I had liked the band's page, on Instagram and Facebook or whatever, and it came up in my social media, and I was like, I'm a photographer. I was like, I wonder how big these guys are. Like so the venue they're playing is sort of a mid-sized venue, and I was thinking, small bands really appreciate have a photographer come out and shoot the show. You get free pictures that you can share and use for publicity and stuff like that. And then like once you become sort of a larger band, it's a totally different story. I don't know if any of you have ever shot like a bigger concert. You have to know somebody or know the venue or something like that. And then there are all these rules like where you can stand, how many songs you're allowed to take pictures for. Like a lot of times you can only take pictures for like the first three songs. You'll be competing with other photographers. There might be a couple other photographers there, and everybody's sort of vying for position and stuff like that. And so like it's the experience couldn't be more different from a small band who would just love to have any decent photographer come and get pictures of them, to a well-known band. And I thought, I wonder how big are these guys, because they sound like radio. Like this is the kind of thing that alternative stations should be playing. Like it's just great music. But I was thinking, I don't know, maybe they're not that big yet. And so I just offhandedly shot off an email saying, "Hey, Austin photographer here, love to photograph your show, and I'd provide you the images free of charge, because I'm a fan of the band. And so if you're interested in that, or if that seems helpful to you, get back with me." And I 100% expected to hear nothing in return. They probably have a photographer they're tour with, or venue already has photography lined up, or whatever it is. Like I'm just nobody. Like I'm a street photographer. I don't do this professionally. I have done professional photo video before, but like right now, my job is taking care of a 4-year-old. So, I'm nobody basically. So anyway, I heard back from him like, the next day. "Yes, we would love for you to come and shoot the show. Also, would you like to come early and do portraits of the band?" And I was like, my gut reaction was like, yes, definitely, that sounds awesome. So I shot back an email, yes, I'd be happy to, and when should I be there, and such like that. And then like the realization like set in. I don't know if it's my personality type or what, but man, just the realization that like I had taken something, like a concert. I'm gonna go see a band that I like at a smallish venue. I already had my tickets and everything like that. I was like, this is like a guaranteed fun experience, and I've somehow turned it into this like stressful work experience because like I said, I'm a street photographer. It's what I do to relax. It's what I do to enjoy myself. I think part of the reason I like street photography is I don't like having a ton of interaction with people. Like the most amount of interaction I really want to have with people is like a brief conversation, take a few pictures, and then, basically I move on. And there's no expectation there. There's just no expectation. So it's totally different when you have a model. Like let's say you've got a model, you pay for a model, you've paid, you're receiving a service, and so it makes sense in my mind. But now with this, it's like, okay, all of a sudden, I'm going to go and do portraits of the band. And I'm going to do it in a space that I'm unfamiliar with. I'm doing it after sunset, so I almost always shoot with available light. And so I just don't shoot if the light isn't good. And so I usually shoot mornings and evenings and cloudy days and, next to a window with the sun outside, things like that. All the usual stuff that you could just guaranteed to have good light. And so I'm going to be going and shooting in this dingy bar that I've never been in before. It's going to be after dark. I kind of went to the website of the venue and I was like, man, looks really dim, and just, as you would expect a bar to not be perfect, like super well lit or whatever. And so, so now I'm like freaking myself out. I'm like, oh, why did I do this to myself? Not only that, but like I'm not exactly a social butterfly. And so I'm thinking, here are these people, they're like super cool, band, awesome, cool rock band people. And I'm guaranteed to like be awkward and embarrass myself trying to meet these people. And so I'll flash it up on screen, but I literally like made myself a little photograph with their names on it. Like I wrote their names like in an app or whatever, trying to like memorize their names because I was mortified that I would like forget their names. And so I was like memorizing their names. I'm like watching videos on YouTube to try and get like a feel for their personalities and stuff like that. And this is where it gets weird. This is the part of it that I think is actually a really fun and kind of embarrassing story for me. And so what happened was I'm online, I'm watching videos of the band, and they have this one YouTube video where they do a couple songs and they sort of take a few interview questions. And one of the questions was, if you weren't going to be a musician for a living, what would you be interested in? And the drummer said he would love to be a cook, and the bass guitarist said that he would love to design games, and then the singer, front woman, like guitarist, singer, she said, oh, I really love toys, vintage toys specifically. And then she like rattled off a few vintage toys that she was into. And I'm also into vintage toys. And so one of the toys that she rattled off was Glowworm. And actually, let me go get this thing. Here's my vintage childhood Glowworm from the 80s. Isn't he cute? And he doesn't glow anymore because I lost the glow part. But so I thought, I'll just throw that in my bag, Maybe if we really hit it off or whatever, I'll show her my glowworm. It just sounds so horribly wrong. And so anyway, so I get there and meet the band, and I meet the tour manager, and everybody's really cool. And I kind of like a deer in the headlights, but I felt like I did okay. And got a few pictures. I'll be putting those up on the screen so you can see the pictures that I got. And then after that, I shot the concert, and that went well. Like I was, confident in my ability to shoot a rock concert. Like that's not a big deal, and I was pretty happy with the pictures there. And then afterwards, so I'm hanging out with my friend Sean, and I'm like, "Hey Sean, you're never gonna, like, I gotta tell you something, like I found out like on YouTube that Leah, who is the front woman's name, she's like super into vintage toys and she really likes glowworm. So I like brought my glowworm with me. It's in my bag right here, and I was like, man, I totally wimped out and I didn't like, I didn't tell her about it or show her the glowworm. And he was like, dude, that's so weird. And I was like, yeah, I know. He's like, it's so weird, but you have to go show her the glowworm. And I was like, really? You think I should? Because I had to go get my stuff anyway. So I had all of my photo gear like crammed in the green room. And this is after the concert, so they're all like in the green room. Actually, they weren't all in there, but Leah was in there and the tour manager, and I think one other person was in there. And he was like, yeah, you got to go in there anyway. You got to show her the glowworm. And I was like, oh, okay, all right, I'm going to do it. And so like, psyched myself up and like went in there, and she's in there with the tour manager, and like I'm getting my camera gear out, and I'm just like, hey Leah, I was watching this interview with you on YouTube. At first I said like, great show, I think the pictures came out well, and I'll send you the pictures, blah blah blah. But I was like, yeah, I watched this interview with you, and I know that you're like into vintage toys, and she's like, oh yeah, I am into vintage toys. And I was like, and one of the toys that you mentioned was glowworm, and that you like glowworm. And she was like, yeah, I really like glowworm. And I was like, well, I hope this isn't too weird, but I totally have a glowworm and I brought it with me. And would you let me get a picture of you with my glowworm? I'm cracking myself up. Oh my gosh. So yeah, so like, and she was like totally cool about it. She was like, I love glowworm. Oh, I love your glowworm. And so she's like holding a glowworm, and I'll show you the picture I got or whatever. She's like posing with the glowworm or whatever. And so, anyway, I felt really good about it. And so I went out and I ran out, like after that, and told Sean, I was like, man, she loved the glowworm. I got a picture of her, the glowworm. Like, I'm so happy that I showed her the glowworm. And so everything seemed cool, and then like it suddenly hit me, like this realization, like the green room is kind of small, and so we're kind of crowded in there, and I'm trying to imagine, like, from her perspective, here's this guy she doesn't hardly know, it's kind of an awkward guy. He's got me cornered in this he got me cornered in this green room. And all of a sudden, like, he's pulling out a glowworm, his childhood glowworm toy, and he wants me to have a picture of it take a picture of it. And like, what's the easiest way out of that situation? You just act like you like the glowworm, and you take the picture of the glowworm and just hope he goes away. And so I'm like, oh god, she thinks I'm a total creep, and like, oh my god. And so like, I had this, like, I almost like got like a cold sweat, like, oh my, they hate me, oh my gosh, they hate me. And so anyway, so I have no idea like what scenario is true. That's probably just my brain playing tricks on me or whatever. But either she thinks I'm totally creepy, or she was being genuine and she actually thought it was cool that I brought a vintage toy to her concert. Or somewhere in between those two things is probably the truth. This I guess that's what this photography vlog is for, like the confessions of an awkward photographer who got to meet a band that he likes and take some photographs at their concert. And so yeah, I'll probably post on this video some of the pictures that I took that came out good, while I've been talking here, so you have a look at my face the whole time, and the glowworm picture and all that. And check out Slothrust. They're badass, and whether or not they think I'm a weird, awkward person or not, I still like them. So highly recommended. Highly recommended. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. All right, bye.